does suicide go together? Are you going to turn your rage out? Are you going to turn your rage inward?
Social media also comes under fire because studies show it increases the risk for depression, anxiety, and bullying. Christian psychiatrist Daniel Amen is particularly concerned about youngsters on these platforms, warning that parental controls can give a false sense of security.
So even if it's safe, what it's doing is setting them up to spend more and more time on it as they grow. And all the research I know says that's a bad thing.
As the president of the American Association of Christian Counselors, Dr. Tim Clinton says people of faith need to face the reality of suicidal depression in their community.
The church, the community of believers out there need to get more serious about mental health related issues and themes in everyday life. We need to bring this to the front and center, the forefront of the church.
Suicide warning signs include talking about suicide or feelings of hopelessness, contacting people to say goodbye, and giving things away.
If you or someone you love struggles with suicidal thoughts, free anonymous help is available anytime by calling 1-800-273-TALK. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Pat?
We've been talking about that swarm of earthquakes. Normally speaking, a bunch of tremors has a tendency to alleviate some of the stresses that would cause a big earthquake. And so this is not the sign of the big one coming. It may be the sign of the big one being alleviated. But on the other hand, there are people who think that if there's a big swarm of earthquakes, it's a precursor to the big one. And we've all been waiting for the big one that's going to break over the Los Angeles area. They've had them up in San Francisco, but when you've got the several fault lines that run through California, it is an earthquake zone, and it is a thing that needs to be taken care of, and it can't be ignored. But here's the story about what's happening right now in Hayward, California. John?
Pat, the swarm of earthquakes you're talking about hit Southern California over the last 3 weeks, covering an area of less than 1 square mile in San Bernardino and Riverside counties. Residents say they have felt the shaking and wonder if a big one is coming, but geological researchers say there's a slim chance there will be a larger quake. The swarms have an average magnitude of 3.0. And Pat, this area is right along that ring of fire that you talk about.
Sure is. And the Earth is, you know, we have these big plates. There's a magma underneath us, and the plates float on the magma. And there's a North American plate, there's a Pacific plate, and so forth. And they come together, and if they break apart just a little bit, then all of a sudden you've got a big fracture, and you've got all kinds of terrible things happening, especially in a modern city. And a lot of our architecture has not been prepared to withstand a quake. Well-built structures usually stand up, and the damages from things that hit people when the buildings fall or when furniture falls and so forth. But it's very scary to undertake one of those things, and when that north side earthquake hit, my son Tim was in it and started shaking, and it was a scary situation.
Have you ever been in an earthquake?
I was in one in Israel. I was in a bed, asleep, and all of a sudden I felt this bump behind me, and I didn't know what was the matter, and the curtain started shaking. It was an earthquake, but it was far enough away so it didn't affect me.
I felt one in. I was in Arizona.
Really?
And living right on the border of California, and back then it was my first TV job. Slept on a mattress on the floor. So when the earthquake came, it felt like something came into the mattress like this.
Wow.
And it felt like a roller coaster. And my roommate and I, we ran out into the middle. Her bedroom was here and mine was here. We ran out into the middle and hugged each other. And it was really scary. Because that was my first and only earthquake.
Yeah, well, I'd just as soon stay away from them, but some of them can be very, very devastating. And of course, when you look at some of the fictional movies that have been about earthquakes, but it could be that, parts of California with that San Andreas fault, it could be significant enough that you could have a large portion of a state opening up, and the